Good morning, fabulosities. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Yes, the madness of May is going to continue today. It's a really weird weather day. It was super chilly this morning. Oh, we're about to go dark again. Loads of clouds. When the clouds part, really strong sunshine and really bright, gorgeous. Then the clouds come over, it gets a bit chilly again. It feels damp everywhere because of all this gorgeous rain we've had, and we're due more today. Yay! A bit gusty. Listen, we'll deal with all of that once we're out in the garden. We'll just take it as it comes, eh? So, today is all about, I'm still playing catch up, so today is going to be a load of seed sowing, brassicas, Flint corn, Achocha, what else I'll remember as I go along. So I've got all my lovely saved loo rolls, that's for my Flint corn. They're not super happy to have their roots disturbed, so once they're established, this whole thing goes into the ground. Fab. Get on with that in a minute. I'm going to do my sowing on the table outside, as I normally do. The difference today is I'm going to cover the table in some bin sacks that I've got, so that any spillage of compost I can save and it won't fall through the table or go on the floor, because literally every ounce, never mind ounce, every milligram of compost this year is precious. Oh my goodness gracious me. Yeah, still haven't had delivery. Never mind. And in the meantime, a load of other plotters have cottoned on to the community compost being pretty much the only option any of us have got. It's disappearing quickly. I'm going to try and get a little bit more of it today, because one of the sowings I want to do today is going to be in, where are we? One of these little mini grow bags. You've seen me using the big versions of these out on the deck for my elephant garlic and potatoes. I've got these, they were from Bernadette, and these ones from Gabby. I've got a load of these. I think she sent me about, I think I might have about 10 of them even. So they're not massive. I don't know how many litres. Does it say on the label? No, it doesn't say how many litres go in there. But I've got ideas for them, for both the achocha and the peppers. So I'm going to see if I can get some community compost for those. And it reminded me as I came in this morning, I'll just have a quick chat about this now, about fertilisers and feeds for the soil, because I'm often asked, and there are only 2 things I use. It's sort of like 2 of the 3 chemicals in my garden. No, there are 4 chemicals, aren't there? So I use Epsom salts, I use beer. You'll see the Epsom salts later, in about 4 weeks' time. The beer, that will start to go out soon. And the other 2, which are my feeders, are my dried chicken manure pellets. Generally I use those when I create a bed. I will rake some of that in. If it's a really long in the bed type of plant, like say the garlic, some of the brassicas, I might use that chicken manure as a top dressing later in the season. But otherwise, the only other thing I feed my plants with is my urine. So, what reminded me about this today is, in our composting loo, one of the most current bin, we use wheelie bins to catch all our business, had filled up, so it's been taken out and swapped for an empty one. And the one that's been taken out, that'll be sealed and left to rot down for 2 or 3 years. In the process, the guys got stuck into doing that at the weekend, God love them. One of the old, now composted down humanure bins has been tipped out for people to go and help themselves to. It looks really good. I don't want to use it though, because I don't know what's gone in there. If it was all my own poo, I'd more than happily use it. But yeah, I'm a bit I don't want to use other people's stuff because I just don't know what's in it in terms of metabolites of drugs. So, brings me on to my urine. So there's a lot of myth, I'm just looking for my water, there's a lot of myth about using urine in the garden surrounding male and female blah blah blah. It really does my head in. Women can use their urine. Let's have a drink and start making some. Yeah, women can use their urine. Look, for years and years and years, it's been going around that it should only be male urine that's used either on the compost heap or as a fertiliser. It's absolute bunkum and balderdash, as my great aunt would say. Poppycock and balderdash. I don't know how that myth started. I've got a feeling it's probably something to do with the, you know, the old boys club, the allotments. Traditionally it was always the old blokes who had them and they wanted to keep the women out. I don't know, but that myth began, and literally every year I see it perpetuated. Excuse me a sec. Gosh, it's getting harder to film these days, just because there's so many people around all the time and everyone wants to chat. It's lovely, but just means a lot stop start. Yes, so as I was saying about the urine, I don't know where the myth started, I don't know why, but it is a myth. The differences between male and female urine are so infinitesimally small, it doesn't matter. And what I would always say is, to anyone who doubts it, look at my harvests every year. Look how much I manage to get out of this ground every single year, just from a bit of chicken poo and a bit of girl wee. So feel free to use your wee. Now, when I use it as a fertiliser on the plants, I use it fresh and I water it down to sort of anywhere between 10-15 parts of water to my wee and apply it at the roots. I don't ever use it on seedlings, just once the plants are getting a bit bigger, a bit more established, and throughout the whole growing season. So obviously our urine, it's mostly made up of water. The next largest constituent of it is urea. Now it's the urea which, when your urine is fresh, it doesn't smell. When it's getting a bit old, that's when it starts to have that ammonia stinky smell, and that's the activity of bacteria on the urea. Oh, and I should just also bust another myth. People are always saying, oh, when your urine comes out it's sterile. It's not. Sterile would mean the absence of microorganisms. We know that there are certain bacteria that colonise bladders, so some of those are going to come out. So no, it's not sterile when it comes out. Mythbusters! But yes, when sorry, just seeing more people approaching the shed. So when it's fresh, I use it as a fertiliser on the plants. Occasionally, I will leave it for 24 hours, let that kind of bacterial action on the urea happen. Then I put it in my compost heap because it's a fantastic compost heap activator at that point. I don't put the fresh on, that would be kind of a waste of fresh. But yeah, every now and again I'll leave some for 24 hours and it goes in the compost heap. Now, there are some useful minerals, trace minerals in our wee. So nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. Yeah, I mean there's all sorts of other little bits and pieces as well, but it's mainly the nitrogen is the bigger amount of all those. So strictly speaking, you could say only use your urine on your nitrogen hungry plants. So if you think of where you've got a lot of growth above ground, a lot of green growth, nitrogen is great for those plants. But actually, I use it for everything. There are a lot of studies you can look at online where people are using only urine as a fertiliser and on sort of on all types of crops and getting good results. And like I said, I get good results too. So, yay! I think, wipe my mouth on my sleeve. You know, the best thing about urine, well, there's so many great things about it. It's free. All I need to do is drink water to make my own fertiliser. It's free. There's no packaging. Well, apart from my body is a packaging. There's no packaging. There are no miles. There's no carbon miles with it. I mean, you could say that cleaning water, so we've got drinking water, produces carbon. Let's not get into the nitty gritty of it, you know what I mean. There's no transporting of it other than me, oh sorry, wobble wobble, my legs walking to the garden every day. So, you know what, it's an absolute no-brainer to me. It's free, it's abundant, it's always on tap. Except when it's really hot in the summer, and despite drinking gallons and gallons and gallons, I sweat it out before I can pee it out. So like I was saying, I might see if I can, I don't know if I can be bothered. I was going to say find some of these studies and link them underneath for you, but do your own research. The main thing to say is don't worry about it being female versus male. The metabolized hormones that we excrete in our urine are so infinitesimally small. It would be like thinking in terms of a single teardrop in a 5-gallon bucket or whatever. Minuscule. And it's like I always say to people, do my plants come up with a pair of boobs because of female hormones in the ground? No, of course they don't. So yeah, use your free natural resource of your own urine, fresh as a fertiliser on the plants, 24 hours old or older as an activator for your compost heap. What is not to love? Yay, right, so I'd better start thinking about, I was just wondering if I wanted to say anything else about urine before I start. Oh yeah, so just in terms of the levels of nitrogen, potassium, phosphate, like I was saying, the nitrogen is what you have most of in your wee. It's most people's level of nitrogen, they're going to be pretty much the same. However, in a really high protein diet, so I know a lot of people are on these kind of carb free diets and Atkins diets and keto diet and all that, then that level of nitrogen will go up a bit. I haven't found any studies in terms of agriculture, urine and agriculture, which have looked specifically at whether that slight increase in nitrogen has any detriment to the garden. I don't know. So if you are on one of those types of diets and you've never used your urine before as a fertiliser, give it a go this year, but maybe just on, for example, let's say you've got a block of sweet corn, maybe try it on one half and on the other half don't, and just see how it gets on if you fancy experimenting. There was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, that was the other thing, and it's back to the humanure. Personally, I wouldn't use urine if I'm taking any kind of medication. Now, I know I'm having my vitamin D, I'm not worried about that, but all sorts of other medications, I'd be inclined to not use my wee in that circumstance. And that, like I was saying about our humanure, that's why I don't want to use the humanure, because I don't know what, and I don't need to, it's none of my business, but I don't know what drugs anyone is on this site. Therefore, I don't know what may have been excreted in that poo. I'm sure there's a load of meat eaters on site. I don't want meaty poo. That's a really gross idea, isn't it? So yes, I shan't use it. I'll just stick with my own wee and see if I can get some of that community compost as well. but not the humanure. Right, it's getting really cloudy again. It is supposed to rain today, but not for about 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, let's get a wriggle on. Let's get sowing some seeds. Ready to rock and roll with my brassicas. Okay, this I really should have done a month ago, ideally at the beginning of April. Didn't happen, never mind, it's happening now. Generally, as we get into autumn, you know, compared with other gardeners, my brassicas always tend to be a bit small, but then they catch up every year and I get lovely harvests, so not worried. Today I am going to be sowing some cavallo nero. That's the lovely kale with the long, pimply, deep, dark green leaves. I'm going to be doing some Savoy cabbages, various types of calabres. So for those in the UK, think that's your broccoli, that kind of broccoli. Now, the one I grew last year, I can't remember what it was called, and it's annoying me because as I was cutting out the main heads and leaving the plants to throw out their side shoots, they didn't get side shoots. So that was a bit of a disappointment, because in previous years I've always had those side shoots too. Never mind. So yes, kale, cavallo nero, Savoy cabbages, calabrese broccoli, and then some purple sprouting broccoli. Of course, I love my purple sprouting. So I'm going to try and rattle through this a little bit today because there's a lot to get done. I'm sowing in these cells. So these cells come like this, quite flimsy. So then I just sit them in one of these gravel trays. It's a seed tray, it's got holes in, rather than a gravel tray without holes. I'm going to sow about, try not to be too heavy-handed, about 4 to each cell. Ooh, big jellycopter. There are 15 cells per tray. I'm going to sow 4, so that's going to give me 60 if I all come good. 60 times 3 is 180. I actually want about between 80 and 100 plants come the autumn for my garden to feed me. If I've got a spare, great, give them away. The reason I'm starting them here, once all 4 have come up, I'll then pop them on into individual pots where they'll stay all summer. The reason I do it this way is because I don't have a bed free at this time of year to take any of them. My beds, where these will go, it'll be the late summer once autumn comes, once onions come out, for example. So this is what I was kind of mentioning previously about always thinking ahead to the next crop. If I left this until the end of July to sow, when those onions come out, I wouldn't get a crop, just wouldn't get one. So I'm sowing now, but thinking ahead to planting them in the garden for July. Yay! So these little seeds are fairly manageable. It's almost inevitable that I will accidentally sow too many per cell. Like I said, I'm going to try and get 4 in each cell. And then, you know, if they all germinate, woohoo! But if they don't, if they all germinate, woohoo, and I can just, you know, pick the strongest to pot on. That's using up last year's seed. A little bit of fresh seed this year. The great thing with a lot of the seed companies with brassicas, or they're not in a packet within the packet, is, where did I sow? Oh yeah, is you usually get loads. So either buy a packet with a friend and share them, or like I have pretty much every year, I'm almost always using some leftover seed from the previous year. So I'll have loads from this packet left, for next year. Yay! Fabulous. It's just another way of cutting down your costs each year, isn't it? So they're all in, and then just a little sprinkle of compost on the top. Not too deep, like maybe just sort of 2 or 3 millimetres, pulling out the branches as I go. And then I'll give it all a bit of a water and pop it all in the cold frame for now, because I have space there at the moment. They don't really need the cold frame. I could just leave them sitting out, say, on the deck, for example, except the deck's a bit busy already. So into the cold frame they go. And at the moment, because I don't have any of my tender plants in there hardening off, I'll just leave all the windows open. So yeah, a bit of a water into the cold frame. Bob is your male relative of your mother. Is that right? Something like that. It's quite noisy today, isn't it? There's a beautiful jay with its flash of its blue on its wings. Yeah, there's a house nearby that's having a loft extension, and they've carried on with the work. Okay, shaky tap down, brilliant. That's first of the brassicas. I'll show you the rest of the brassicas in a minute. No, I won't show you the rest of the brassicas in a minute. I'm just going to get on and do. This is my tray of... Oh, hang on a minute. I haven't brought my seed out. Hang on. That's better. So in my loo rolls, I'm going to be sowing my flint corn. So flint corn, it's very similar to sweet corn, except it's not sweet, and you don't have it as a fresh, on the cob type vegetable. Is that making sense? Yeah, basically it's for drying. And once dry, I mill it to give myself a sort of a coarse type flour, or I pop it. It comes in all these well, I don't know if you're going to be able, I can't be bothered standing up to show you. It comes in different colours. So you could sow these, fooey everywhere. You could sow these direct, as in put them straight in the ground now. However, where these are going to go, I still have a crop. Where are these going? Where these are going to go is currently occupied by the garlic. So again, it's just like with the brassicas. I'm thinking ahead to putting them in. It'll be towards the end of May when the garlic comes out. What I don't want, because it is a relatively it's a relatively small growing space I've got. Well, it's a hearty growing space, but for food for the whole year, it is quite a small space. So the very last thing I want is to have empty beds when they could be filled with something. So yeah, always thinking ahead, always thinking about what's going to come out when, and what can I replace it with when it does come out. So like I mentioned, they're not massively happy to have their roots disturbed, so doing them in the loo roll holders, great. They can develop nice long roots in here, and then probably the roots will be out the bottom by the time I come to plant. That's okay. So I'm just popping one in each one, and it'll get a covering of about 1 centimetre of compost. Just to note, if you are using loo rolls, when you come to plant, I'll plant the whole thing, loo roll and all, because it will just rot down in the soil. But when you do plant them, make sure the top of edge of the loo roll, make sure that's just below the surface of the soil. If you leave it standing proud, what happens is that cardboard, it kind of wicks moisture out of the ground, and then it evaporates off the top exposed edge of the loo roll. So you're going to end up drying your plant out inadvertently. So yeah, anything in a loo roll, make sure that top edge of the loo roll is below the surface of the soil, so it can't do that wicking action. So much for a quiet day in the garden. Kids are out on the trampoline. It's sweet though, isn't it? It's like I was mentioning recently, it's all the sounds of life happening and hitting the jelly. Whoa, we're getting a lot of life at the moment, aren't we? Once these are all popped in, I will again do a bit of a light watering. Police, not heli-med. Yeah, give them a light watering, pop them in the cold frame. Again, they could be outside by now at this stage. This kid's going to drive me crazy in a minute. There's me going, oh, isn't it lovely, the sounds of life? Shut up! Stop enjoying yourselves. Yes. God, they've distracted me. Anyway, so let's quickly whack these in, because then I want to take you onto the deck and show you what I'm going to seed on the deck. Oh, dropping them. Right, let's get these covered, watered. Chop chop everyone. We've got a lot to do today. It's definitely a noisy day today. I'm just going to have to put up with it. Right. It's my neighbour Sheena. So, Achocha. Actually, let me just get this metal mesh on. I'll just put this around here, because after I'd filled it up with some of that communal compost, I came back the next day and it had just been sprayed absolutely everywhere. Yeah, so Achocha, it's I think it's Colombian or Ecuadorian or Peruvian, South American. I tried it for the first time 2 years ago, and again last year. And what I found last year was that sowing them direct. So in the first year I started them off at home, but I just think that sort of bred some weakness into them. So they romped away along the fence, but I didn't ever get any fruits. Whereas last year I direct sowed, they came on fine, I got loads of great fruits. And really late in the season I discovered how much I love them. So they're like they're almost sort of like a little tear shape, or sort of half of yin and yang shape. And when they're really young and tender, they have a sort of a slightly cucumbery taste to them, and they're great raw in salads. As they get a bit older and a bit bigger, it's still a little bit cucumbery, but it goes more towards a pepper taste. Beautiful. So, I saved some seed from last year. I'm sorry, it seems like I'm really rattling today, but there's just so much to get on with and catch up with. So, I'm just going to see where I can fit one of my cloches. Sorry, sweet peas. Okay. I'm going to pop them. I'm going to pop a couple in here. I actually only want one, but obviously one for the farmer, one for the soil. It should be three really. One for the farmer, one for the soil, and one for the wildlife. And then I'm just putting my water bottle cloche on it for now, because I do want to create a little bit of extra warmth in there. A, to get it going, and B, once it is going, to give it a little protection at night time in case we get chilly at night time. So water bottle on, bamboo stick in, clip on the top, and that's just to A, stop the cloche being blown off in the wind, B, to hopefully stop any foxes or whatever bashing it off, and C, to stop the wind. I am though going to put that metal mesh back around, because there's still a lot of bare earth in there. I can't remember if I showed you the other day or not. Maybe I did it, I think I did it off camera, but that's the sweet peas in the back that I popped in the other day. So 2 in there, I'm going to pop a couple in here, and then just behind my chair, can you see where I've got that galvanised metal bin? I haven't talked about that for ages. It's got wood ash in it, and I sometimes use that as a bit of a top dressing. So it sits there, it's really heavy, there's a lot of ash in there. But what I thought is, with one of those little bags perched on the top, then hopefully I can get another Achocha on that part of the fencing. Morning, lovely.
Hello.
Our lovely Sheena is here. How are you today?
Good. Yes, absolutely fine.
Trying to beat the rain.
Show you what I've done.
Oh, Sheena's done something. Let's have a look.
I've been meaning to do it for 15 years.
15 years.
Now, my lodger had no idea what this was, so this is a test.
Is it garden related? A lovely new, oh, can we show it on a lovely new plot sign? Are you plot number 11 though?
No! That's what I'm saying. My lodger didn't recognise what it was either.
So it is, look at that, mosaics. Can you see it's bits of old pottery stuck onto
Yeah, but it's
roof
not
tile?
number 11, is it?
What plot
is it?
What plot number are? Oh, 14.
Yes, 4.
That's a 4. You might need
4.
another extra. Oh, isn't that lovely? I absolutely adore how inventive everyone is with their plot signs. Sheena, you've got to get another bit of blue pottery, my love. Another bit there and a tiny bit there.
Oh, right, okay.
No, you don't have to do anything. Don't listen to me. Oh, how pretty, glinting in the sun. Yay! Oh,
Anyway,
sweet.
It's only taken me 15 years.
15 years to get a plot sign. I'm going to go and see where it's going to go. Ah, there's Sheena's lovely little sign in place on the corner of her plot. Right, it's gorgeous. Apple tree. Right, let's momentarily head back to my plot. Hello, Goosey. Just weaving between the little back paths. Oh, sorry. Tap, tap. All right, Rusty. Are you having a nice sun bath, buddy? I've got to say, when the sun comes out today, so I spun you around really fast, didn't I? It's really quite warm and lovely. Isn't it, Rusty? Hey? Are you judiciously ignoring me? Yes. So, brilliant. That's a couple of Achocha in there. Oh, you can see it's warming up already. You can see how it's steaming up from all the moisture that's in these hugel cultures. So a couple in there, and then just around the back of my chair. Oopla, sorry, I'm a bit wobbly today. There's one of the little bags from Gabby with some of the communal compost in it, and a couple more in there. Oh, I'm just going to put you guys down in a second. Let me line you up so I can ting ting, watering can. Come and have a little sit down. Let's get you. Wobble, wobble, wobble. Oh, okay, glasses back on so I can see. Oh my goodness, so many bees. It's gorgeous here. I do try and, as much as it's really busy at the moment, there's so much to do and quite a lot of it's really physical. I do try and stop every now and again and just sit and watch these amazing little creatures at their work. And just see a load of little furry bee bums sticking out of the ends of tubes. Excuse me. How are my potatoes in a bag doing? Oh, I see one tiny little shoot. Goodness me. Well, it's lovely. I forgot to show you just then as well. It's lovely to finally have some seeds sown and underway in the cold frame. Brilliant. Brassicas, Flint corn, Achocha sown, fabulous. Next, and it'll be in the next video, hopefully, parsnips and my calendula bed, which again I'm going to do very slightly differently this year. Not differently like carrots, NHS differently. I can't wait to see that all sprouting. I just want to see NHS heart appear in green. Oh, can't wait. But yeah, it really is now time to massively get a wriggle on with getting my beds ready to take seed. So parsnips, calendula next, and the red onions, still not done them. And then I will focus on, there are 3 beds I will dig and focus on, and that's going to be all my bush bean type beds. Oh, is that rain? Oh my goodness, too early. One is for my rockencore, bed du rockencore. One will be for my coco de pampol, and one will be for my chickpeas because they need to go in next. Then eventually I'll get onto things like beans, salads, beetroot, chard, fennel. Oh my goodness, so much to do still. All the structures to build. Do I look worried? Yeah, and it'll be interesting this year. I need to wrap up. Shut up, Vivi. I can't help myself. I get enthusiastic. The coco de pampol, normally I sow them in pots because there's nowhere to sow them until the broad beans have come out. This year the broad beans are going to take forever, so because it's the third sowing. So I've decided to requisition the bed behind them for the coco de pampol. So I'm actually going to sow some direct this year. Dare I risk it? I think I've got enough to do some direct and some backups in pots. It's starting to rain, the wind's picking up. I think it's time for me to say cheerio to you all. I'm going to stay because it's only light drizzle. And try and get another bed prepped. So until I see you next time, gird yourself, there's digging to do. Happy sowing to you all, and if you like me, you're playing catch up with your sowing, yeah, don't worry, we'll get there. It's happening. We're doing it. No problems. See you soon.